Avery, welcome. I've got an intro for you first, so let me pull it up so I don't screw this one up. Here we go, everyone. Welcome, Avery Carl. And Avery Carl is the author of two Amazon bestsellers, Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth, Your Guide to Analyzing, Buying, and Managing Vacation Properties, and Smarter Short-Term Rentals. Actually, go pick those up on Amazon. She's also a host of Short Term Show podcast. So the podcast name is The Short Term Show, and the CEO of the Short Term Shop. Wait, what do you sell in the Short Term Shop? I'm curious.
Short-term rental real estate, of course.
I thought maybe t-shirts too. Okay, let me
Well, I got
continue.
those if you want them.
That's cool. Short Term Shop, the country's top short-term rental and Airbnb real estate agency for 3 consecutive years. We've been featured in top publications, including the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and Forbes. Avery went from 37,000 salary to a real estate portfolio of over 250 doors. That's crazy. In 5 years, through strategically investing in short-term and vacation rentals. This strategy allowed her to grow her portfolio much more quickly than starting off with traditional long-term rentals. It's her goal to help as many investors reach financial independence through short-term rental investing as possible. This is awesome. You piqued my interest, Avery. Where do we start with this?
All right, so I have some slides to share. So I will connect to these. And y'all, I apologize that I'm not home in my office with my nice studio. I'm on the road speaking at a conference, so you get the background of the embassy suites. We're lucky I was able to get into my room and I'm not like with background.
This is good. Don't worry.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for having me. So today I'm going to talk to you about investing in short-term rentals. And I'll start with a little story about before I had my real estate license. I was working what I thought was my dream job in the music business in Nashville, which pays basically nothing because it's sexy. And my husband and I had just gotten married, and I had really gotten into personal finance, and I was really trying to get our marriage and life off on the right foot. We've been married 13 years now, 2 kids later. And so I was really into personal finance, and I was really into Dave Ramsey, which I am not anymore, which you'll see why here shortly. But we kind of got into the real estate investing space because we had about $10,000 saved up, and we're like, well, what do? We went to the Edward Jones office that was in the same building as my corporate job, and went to a financial advisor and said, hey, what do we do with this little bit of money that we have that we're like so proud we'd saved up $10,000? And she was very, very nice about it. But she basically told us that we did not have enough money for her to bother with. And we were like, oh, cool. We're losers. So we left and went to the bar. And so while we were at the bar, we were thinking, well, there's got to be something productive we can do with this $10,000. And we had just moved from New York City to Nashville about a year prior. And our real estate agent at the time was really trying to get us to buy in this super hip, fast appreciating area of Nashville, the Brooklyn of Nashville, if you will, East Nashville. And at the time, houses there were like in the 150. She said people's appreciation is $100,000 in a matter of months or a year. This was back in 2013. So little did we know about COVID appreciation around the corner. But so we thought, well, you know what? That appreciation sounds kind of interesting. What if we were able to save up a little bit more money, buy one of those houses, put a renter in it for however long, and then let it appreciate? So we're not having to pay the mortgage. We're not having to pay the utilities on this. Somebody else is. And then when our future kids need to go to college, maybe we can get 2 or 3 of these things, and maybe that appreciation will pay for their college. And we thought we were these great financial geniuses. We didn't even know it was called real estate investing. So we bought one. And yes, we bought a long-term rental, and the mortgage on that was $647 a month. And the rent on that we were able to get was $1,500 a month. So just under $1,000 a month, which was about what I was making at my dream job, because the music business pays nothing because there's always an intern that'll do it for free. So then we thought, okay, well, there's really something to this, because I have to go bust my ass all day, every day, and drive an hour and a half each way in Nashville traffic. And this house makes the same amount of money that I make while we're asleep. So we said, we need more of these. We need to do this again. But we thought, well, what can we do what can we buy that's going to make us the most amount of money the fastest so that we can buy more faster? And we landed on short-term rentals. We did not want to do it in Nashville because Nashville was already very anti short-term rentals. So we said, where can we buy something that is going to be, it's the normal thing for people to go there and rent a house or a condo rather than stay in a hotel room. And we just been on vacation to the Smoky Mountains, which is like 3 hours east.
Nice.
We stayed in a cabin and all our friends stayed in cabins. So we're like, okay, somebody owns these cabins. Why can't it be us? So we went to a real estate agent, and this is where, because a lot of you guys are in the real estate business, if you're listening to this, and we said, we were asking a bunch of questions, and she told us, she ended up being a very good friend of mine. She passed away a couple years ago, but I asked, well, do you own any of these things? Like, how do you do? We were trying to, this is back before there was gurus on the internet telling you how to short-term rent, myself included. And so we just kind of had to figure things out as we went. So we're asking her all these questions. We said, well, you know all about these. Do you own any of them? And she said, no, I make so much more money selling real estate than I do owning real estate. And that has always stuck with me because that could not be more incorrect. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is very quickly about, yes, you can make a ton of money in real estate. You can be very successful selling real estate, but the way to keep more of that money through investing in real estate yourselves. So now I will introduce myself after that long-winded story. I've been investing in real estate since 2013, bought that first one that I told you about then, bought my first short-term rental in 2015. I've got 250 doors now, 10 of them are short-term rentals. And well, I'll get to that in a minute. Getting ahead of myself. The rest of them are more traditional, apartment buildings, single family, long terms. And I actually, because back then there weren't really any agents, and still not now, that specialized in helping investors buy short-term rentals, I quit my corporate job, got my real estate license, kind of became that agent, bridged that gap in the real estate investing space. And so now the short-term shop we were the ` team at EXP in the world 3 years in a row. We were number 2 last year because the number 1 guy bought somebody else's team and passed me. This is something that I eat, sleep, and breathe, and hopefully you guys will learn something from it today. So I've got a few books on it. If you want to check those out, I make about 20 cents on those. The benefit is all to you. I've got a podcast on it every week. Anyway, here is why you as real estate agents should be investing in short-term rentals specifically. So it is much easier to finance, let's say like a $500,000 short-term rental than a $500,000 apartment building, because you can get conventional financing. You guys know what that is. It's easier to get conventional financing than it is commercial from a local bank, things like that. It's very easy to manage them. So there's tons of automations out there now, tons of property management software that makes it very, very easy for you to manage a short-term rental from wherever you are, wherever that property is. So you do not have to live near it. You don't have to be cleaning it yourself. It's very, very easy to automate these days. They actually stay better maintained for longer than long-term rentals. So a lot of people get that backwards. They think, oh, well, you got people in there tearing up your house every week. Actually, no, I have a professional cleaner in there at least 1 to 2 times a week, depending on where we are in the season. Whereas my long-term rentals, they're doing God knows what in there for God knows how long. And I'm probably going to have to replace sheetrock. I'm probably going to have to replace appliances, floors, paint. Like I'm going to have to redo the whole thing when they move out. So they stay maintained for longer. The other cool thing about short-term rentals is if you make an update, let's say your kitchen needs updating, you rent it for a little while, the way the kitchen is, but then you update it, you're going to see that in your income immediately. Whereas long-term rentals, you got to wait for people to move out. Then you have to rehab it. Then you can raise the rent, things like that. With short-term rentals, it's immediate. You don't have to wait for people's lease to be up to be able to update a unit. You can just go in there and do it. You can just block off your calendar and up your income. And the other cool part about them is you can vacation in them. That's really the coolest part. So if you're in California, but you really, really love a very particular beach in Florida, you can buy a property there that you like, that you want to vacation in and make money on it when you're not using it.
Do you use a management company or you've built your own at this point?
So I do not. So for my long-term rentals, yes, 100% I use property management companies. But with short-term rentals, it takes less than an hour a week, the way automations are now, to manage one short-term rental than to pay a property manager about 20%. So to give you guys a little bit of context. So last year, I bought 2 short-term rentals in the past 6 months. So we'll forget about those. But if I'd paid a property manager 20% on the 8 that I had for the whole year last year, that would have been $250,000 to somebody for a gig that a VA can do for, less than 50. So I'm a big proponent of self-management, learning those automations. Then when you have the experience to train a VA to do these things for you, you can absolutely do that. So you guys, a lot of you who have teams or maybe even just single agents probably have some experience with VAs at this point. It is for 8 properties. We have 1 VA, and that's only, I would say he handles our entire portfolio of all the properties, as well as my husband's side of our education business. So I would say it's about maybe a quarter of his job is to manage those 8 vacation rentals. So it really doesn't take much time at all. So a big proponent in you guys managing it yourself. It's super easy. I'm happy to teach you how to do it if you want to learn. One thing that I do want to say is, let me check on time because I'll go over the difference between an Airbnb and a vacation rental. So I invest in vacation rentals. So these are vacation properties in vacation markets that are tourism dependent. I'm not going into your grandmother's neighborhood in Indianapolis and buying up what would have been starter homes for families and turning those into short-term rentals. I buy in markets that 90% of the properties that have been traded since the 60s are either vacation rentals or vacation homes. These aren't areas that a lot of people live. And because of that, we're looking for high tourism, high volume tourism markets. So you don't really ever have to worry about the regulations changing up on you, or because of primary homes and hotels having problems, we look for areas that don't have a lot of hotel presence as well. So for example, the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee, Destin, Florida, Panama City Beach, Florida, where I live right in between those two, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. You all can probably think of a number of properties like this. So, these to me are Airbnbs. These are just houses that people have converted to short-term rentals. These are what I would consider vacation rentals and vacation markets. So beach markets, mountain markets, national park markets, lake markets. You get the idea. Okay, this is what I really want to show you guys. So disclaimer, I am not a CPA, so this is not tax advice. There's a lot of great real estate CPAs that you can go follow or ask for advice on this. Carlton Dennis is one, Amanda Hahn, a really good friend of mine. She's another one, Brandon Hall, Ryan Bakey. Go follow all those guys to learn actual tax advice on short-term rentals. But here is the really cool part about short-term rental investing specifically. So as you guys know, you got to pay a lot of taxes when you're a 1099 worker, like we all are. So I'm going to introduce you to something called the short-term rental tax loophole, or the short-term rental tax strategy. So what this does is it's a special provision. I hate to call it a loophole because that sounds like you're not supposed to do it. It's just a strategy, but it's called the loophole. Let me scoot. I need to move y'all's faces to the other side. It won't let me. Okay, so typically you have to have real estate professional status, which means you spend more time on real estate than any other W-2 job you may have. So most of you guys, again, I'm not a tax professional, probably qualify for real estate professional status. So you don't have to qualify for that to use this strategy. So it's good for your clients as well. So typically, if you buy a piece of real estate, you can depreciate that over, I think it's like 34 years or 39 years. So you can write off a little piece of that depreciation every year on that property for X amount of time. Now, if you do what's called a cost segregation analysis, you can scoot all of that depreciation up to year 1. And what that means is, so let's say, actually, okay. So that's called bonus depreciation. So bonus depreciation allows you to immediately deduct all of that depreciation in year 1, rather than have to split it up to little tiny pieces over 34 years. Now, what does that mean to you? Hang on, we'll come back to that. Here's an example on an $800,000 property. So if you use a cost segregation analysis, so right now we're at 40% bonus depreciation, which is something that President Trump two terms ago enacted the 100% bonus depreciation. Then Biden kind of sunsetted it from 100% to 80, and we're at 40 this year, but President Trump has it back on the table to crank it back up to 100%. So what does that mean? Yes. And it's already, I believe it's already passed one branch of the government, just has to pass another. It's looking really, really, really good that it will come back. So this is what's important to you guys when it comes to saving the money that you make in selling real estate. So let's take an $800,000 property, for example. At 40% bonus depreciation, let's say you buy an $800,000 property this year, we're sticking to 40% bonus depreciation. Next year, when you file your taxes, about this time next year, you'll be able to write off $36,000. So that's not too bad. You know, if you, hang on, I really need to move your faces so I can see. All right, sorry guys. Okay, but if we get back to 100% bonus depreciation, you buy an $800,000 property this year for short-term rental. Next year, with 100% bonus depreciation, you can write off $71,000. And this is probably even a little bit conservative. So for example, I bought a $950,000 property back when it was 100% depreciation a few years ago. And I was able to write off like $350,000. So between 20 and 30% of the purchase price of the property is kind of the ballpark for 100% bonus depreciation. So, you know, that's a significant amount of tax savings.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
Yeah, it's pretty big. So it's a great way to, you're getting an appreciating asset, an asset that will cash flow a little bit. Also, your guests are going to be paying down that mortgage for you. So you're not paying the mortgage, your guests are paying the mortgage. And it is a great way, a great strategy to save on some taxes. So here is a little bit about what it has looked like the last few years. So it was in 2022 was the last year for 100%. And then 2023, it went down to 80. So as of right now, we're headed towards 0% for 2027. And 0% doesn't mean you can't write off the depreciation at all. It just means you can't scoot it all to that year one. So right now you can scoot 40% of the depreciation to year one, but to be able to get back to 100% in year one really is a huge, huge tax savings for you guys. And a lot of people don't know that the only short-term rentals are the only asset class that you can do that, where you can offset your W-2 or your high active income, whatever your active job is, whether it's, you know, a doctor, attorney, selling real estate. You can use these tax losses on your short-term rental to offset the income of your active income. So if you're buying apartment buildings or if you're buying single family long terms, you can only use that bonus depreciation to offset your other passive income, so your other investment income. But with short-term rentals, they're the only asset class where you can actually scoot it over here and offset your active income. So really, really, really cool strategy. One thing, okay, I want to make sure we have enough time for questions. So about buying real estate as a real estate agent. So as you guys know, maybe you don't know, but I would assume you do at this point because we've been in it for 2 or 3 years. We're in one of the worst real estate markets in the last 30 years, maybe the worst real estate market in the last 30 years. So fewer homes have been sold in 2022, 23, and 24, or sorry, 23, 24, and 25 than the last 30 years. So more homes were sold in the 2008 crisis than the last 2 years. So because of that, we are seeing, hang on, it won't let me have a back button. So I got to go back to this. You can only pick one of these things. You can have low prices, low mortgage rates, or low competition. You pick one. So a few years ago, you guys probably remember, we had low rates. And what did we have? Insane appreciation. Prices shot up. And we also had insane competition. The insane appreciation came from the insane competition. I know all of our clients were having to offer $100,000 over asking price cash just to be considered. We would, on our listings, sometimes we'd have 100 offers. Now it's flip-flopped. We have low competition. We don't necessarily have low prices, but we have the ability to get good deals because we have low competition. The rates are high, prices are high, so we have low competition, which means it's a really good time to be a buyer and get a good deal. I bought a property. We closed on it probably 3 weeks ago. We went and looked at, my husband and I decided one Sunday, hey, you know what, let's go look at some real estate. Let's only look at real estate that's been on market for over 9 months. So we looked at 10 properties. We offered super low on 3 of them. 2 people were so offended they didn't even respond to us. And one person responded, and we were able to get a property that started at a 1.275 asking price for $813,000. So right now, especially in vacation markets, and you guys may have, real estate is very much market specific. It's not national. So you guys in your metro areas might not be seeing this, but in vacation markets like where I work, lots of inventory, everything's sitting on the market for a really long time. And what we're seeing is the people that are selling, the listings that are hitting the market, they're not selling because they're happy and they want to sell. They're selling because they're unhappy and they need to sell. So there's something has happened that has made them say, I need to list my house in the worst real estate market of the last 30 years. So use that. You guys see these properties, the same tools that you use to prospect to get listings, exact same thing for you to buy your own properties. Prospect to sellers and see if they'll sell their property to you. So, but if not, do just like I did, go on the MLS and offer low, because you will find that person who's willing to deal with you. Maybe they've had 10 low offers already. Here you come with low offer number 11 and they are willing to deal with you. So this will be my last slide before we do some questions. Everybody's seen those memes going around of like, oh man, I wish I would have been not in second grade during 2008 and I would have bought real estate. I really do think that 10 years from now, people are going to look at 2023, 4, and 5 in the same way and say, man, I wish I would have bought real estate back then when nobody was buying real estate. So hopefully I've been able to give you guys like a few little bites that you can take back and use in your own business to either help your clients or to keep more of your own income, saving on taxes, investing in appreciating assets. Anyway, I'm very happy to answer any questions on short-term rental investing or just investing in real estate as a real estate agent in general.
All right, you do have some questions. Let me go through them really quick. If you take 100% depreciation on year one, hold on. I lost it because we had a few other questions. We already answered that one. Okay, let's go to the top. Candace, you have a great question. When you say short-term rental, is this a single family home or condo or 2 to 4 units?
Well, a short-term rental can be any of those things. The short-term part is what you're using it for. So if you're renting it to people for 14 days or less, in the eyes of the IRS, that's a short-term rental. 30 days or less is typically what you're looking at in the real estate world is qualifying for a short-term rental. So it just depends on what your use case is. So for me, I have single family short-term rentals and I have condo short-term rentals. I don't do any multifamily short-term rentals.
All right. Can you put those people to follow in the chat? Those people that you said, hey, follow these people?
Yes, I don't have their exact ats, but I'll put it right here. Amanda Hahn,
Yes.
Carl Dennis.
This one's recorded. It'll go out to everyone. So don't worry if you missed any part of it. Oh, there it is. Candace, you asked another question. Great questions. If you take 100% depreciation on year one, does that mean that you cannot depreciate in future years from your opinion?
Correct. So again, I don't want to get too far in the tax opinion side, but yes, if you take the 100% depreciation year one, you're done depreciating. So you kind of have to decide, okay, does it make more sense for me to save a ton of taxes this year? Like, is this a really high income year for me? Or do I expect to kind of be making the same amount year over year for the next few years, and it makes more sense just to do it incrementally? You kind of have to decide that. But once you do it, you're done on 100%. Or, right now we're at 40, so you can do 40% upfront and then increment the rest out. And also, if you sell the property, you do have to pay back those taxes, or you'd have to 1031 exchange into a new property. So keep that in mind, that if you sell and don't buy something else using a 1031 exchange, you have to pay those back.
Got it. Do you recommend subletting rental homes to use for short-term rentals?
So that's called rental arbitrage. And I think that that can be a great strategy to A, learn how to manage short-term rentals, and B, to get started if you don't have a lot of cash to go invest in your own properties. But I don't think that that should necessarily be a means to an end, because then you don't get all the tax benefits. And then, it's okay to have another job. You're just creating that job without creating the actual wealth building part of it. So you're creating the cash flow, but without the wealth building tools. So great way. I think it should be a means to an end to be able to invest in your own.
Perfect. And then how do you finance STRs typically?
So the way I would start, if you don't own a lot of real estate already, I would get a 15% down conventional investment loan. I know that's not like fun sounding, but conventional loans are always going to be the easiest to find, even though they are going to qualify you based on your own debt to income ratio. So you're going to be limited on what you can get depending on how much you make. But a lot of people think you have to put 25% down or even 20% down for a single family. It's actually 15 with Fannie Mae. So just ask around some lenders. So I would start there until you max out. You can have 10 conventional loans, and then you can switch to something that's called a DSCR loan, or debt service coverage ratio loan. And what you can do there is it's a portfolio product, but it works kind of like a commercial loan, where the banks are giving you the loan. Instead of basing it on your own debt to income ratio, it's based on what the property will make. So the interest rate's going to be higher because it's a little more risk to the bank, because they're saying, oh, you're going to make how much? Okay, great, cool, here's the money. And then they hope you do. So it's a little bit higher interest rate, but that's a very, very commonly used product if you're out of conventional loans.
Awesome. And are you renting your SDRs through Airbnb or doing it on your own, like you said, using a virtual assistant that you've trained?
So Airbnb is just a tool to list it on. We use Airbnb, Vrbo, and then we do have a direct booking site, just because in order to use Google Vacation Rentals, which is kind of picking up steam, you do have to have a direct booking website. So we use all three of those platforms. There are a few other ones like booking.com. We don't get a lot of traction from there, so we just don't complicate our lives with it. But we use those few platforms to get.
Did you build your own direct booking website, or did you go through a company that built it out for you?
I used a company called Boostly, and they specifically build short-term rental booking websites. So, and there's a few other competitors to them out there as well.
What's the name?
Boostly. I'll put it in the chat.
Boostly. Perfect. Somebody asked that separately. All right, Avery, where do people follow you? Put up your link, Instagram, email, website, whatever you'd like. You brought some great information.
Okay,
I love that we ended on a high note here because it was pretty powerful.
Good, thank you. Putting all my stuff here. Okay, and website.
There it is.
Oh, whoops, mine are only going to hosts and panelists. That's why.
That's okay. I'll grab it right now.
Okay.
I'll grab it and give it to everyone. There you go. I put up Avery at theshorttermshop.com, and then her website, theshorttermshop.com. There you go. Candace says, this is great. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Avery, thanks for being on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, everybody, that is a wrap. Give me your golden nugget or something that stood out that you're like, you know what, I think I can do that. Or I'm going to take that on. Or, you know what, I'm already doing it. I'm just going to do a little bit more of it or a lot more of it. What inspired you? What are you going to do next? Was this any good? Did we do a great job in bringing these people together? Do you want a part 2 to this? We thought it was good timing, but you know, sometimes we get things wrong. So let's see what we got here. Candace, this is great. Thank you, Tristan. Thank you for all the speakers. Thanks, everybody. Excellent panel on speakers. Great diversity. We try to do that. Susie, thank you for noticing. So many opportunities, such a great community of givers. Rhonda, I agree. The STR stuff spoke to me. Dude, me too, Derek. Me too. Jeff, excellent. Carla, great information. Blanca, thumbs up. Christopher, I love this. This was great. I would love a part 2. Thank you, Lisa. We will do a part 2. Lots to think about. Please bring more. James, yeah, a lot to think about. It gives us it expands our horizons. It's like, wait a second. Everyone's got a second or third form of income, right? And these massive companies do as well. So why shouldn't we? Great use of time. Great job. Yes, part 2. Excellent speakers. This was amazing. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Valerie was a great one. Yep, she was. Fantastic. Look, thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you. Thank you for being on. Thank you to those that stood for the whole time. 3 hours. We appreciate you trusting us with bringing you great content. So thank you again. Thank you for being part of Lab Code Agents. Thanks for being on. Have an awesome day, everybody.